because we presented this, and this is part of our Paris Agreement, which we did together.
Just a final thought. If you're serious about meeting your own commitments with regard to the Paris Climate Agreement, why are you backpedaling on nuclear, which for all of its difficulties and its expenses is, in CO2 terms, a much cleaner option? You're backpedaling on nuclear, and you're actually still building new coal-fired power stations. What kind of strategic vision is this?
It's a cost issue. It's a cost issue. We are not saying we are not going to do nuclear. Right now, it was an affordability issue. That's the bottom line. Would love to have more nuclear because we've got a lot of expertise around that. We use, and nuclear energy is the most productive form of energy. As you know, we produce medical isotopes, we do pest control, and all those issues. So we do love nuclear. But we need to do it in a way that we can sustain the cost.
So you are really in a bind. You're telling me that Eskom has the most mountainous debts, which, frankly, no amount of restructuring is going to get rid of soon. You also can't afford to cut out your dependence on coal because it's simply too expensive if you look at the options. I just don't see how South Africa is going to come anywhere close in delivering clean growth.
You are aware of the 27 projects that were signed 2 months ago, which are for renewable energy?
I'm also, yes, I'm aware, I'm aware of the specific projects. I'm aware of the structural challenge. Renewables,
your turn
right
to
now,
pick.
3.4% of your energy mix. Let's get real about the way South Africa's economy works.
Stephen, we signed the 27 projects in spite of budgetary constraints because we had made a commitment. As a government, we had to honor that. It's the same with the coal projects that we had done. We had already made a commitment. So this is not something where we woke up and we decided. That's a reality. The second reality we must look at is the fact that coal, and in South Africa, we have towns that have developed around coal. When you transition, you need to make sure that you've got alternatives.
See, that's the reality.
Job issue is the reality.
80,000 jobs directly involved in coal mining. It's 12% of exports is coal and coal-related. Again, if you're honest with me and the world, you can't afford, given everything we've just said about the state of South Africa's economy, you can't afford to end your dependence on coal.
We are going to end the dependence, but we're going to do it. We're going to do this transition in a just manner and not leave anybody behind.
Well, let's talk about land.
Yes.
Ramaphosa has indicated, and he went on a trip, he met the Zimbabwean president and talked about learning from Zimbabwe. He's indicated that he believes there must be land confiscation and expropriation. How far is he going to take that?
I am hearing those words from you for the first time. What I do know that the president has spoken about is about expropriation without compensation. Now, the process we are undertaking as a country now is to say, in the Constitution, there is a provision for reparations battle, because we need to address the injustices of the past. But what the Constitution says is that you can expropriate with just compensation for public good. What we want to do now is not to leave it almost to mine or your interpretation. We want the Constitution to be absolutely clear in the public interest. The Constitution also defends very strongly private property ownership. It does that. It's unequivocal. And we will not tamper with that. What we are saying is that this justice must not only be about those who have land, it must be also justice for those who don't have land, so that we can make sure that there is security of tenure of land.
I know you are a very loyal member of your movement, the ANC. You've been for a long time. The former president of your country,
I'm under attack.
Thabo Mbeki, said this in a leaked document in September.
Там еще лансеры, кто еще?
Suggests that the ANC has moved away from the fundamental principle of non-racialism. The ANC has changed its character, he said. It is no longer
First blood. The Windbreaker gets the first.
That's going to come out of my pay, isn't it?
A black.
It's unfortunate. That's what happens when documents are leaked, because the whole context of that document...
You find out people's true feelings, and Becky's true feelings about the direction.
Let me tell you what President Becky was saying. President Becky was speaking about the whole issue where it had been racialized in terms of saying it's almost will take from white to give to black. The Constitution, as I say, defends land rights and land ownership. This is about making sure that even those who do not have land because of the past system do get land and can get land tenure so that they have security, they can use it for economic activities. This is what we're trying to address.
But the opposition leader, Musi Mamani, said the government's approach
my fees have
doubled. Stoke racial tension. It could amount to state-sanctioned theft. And I just wonder, as you say to me that South Africa's economy needs the support of the international community, as you did earlier.
Denied.
Do you not worry that this may well
I think what will frighten off investors is when the opposition becomes so disingenuous around issues. We have a parliamentary process where the whole country has been involved, including the opposition, women's, youth organizations, who have all made presentations, because if we do not address the land issue, then even the investments we're talking about will go down the drain, because there is land hunger. There is even an absence of land to build homes for people. So it's not only farming, it's just for somebody to say, this is my house and I own it and I have the title deeds to that. It's that basic.
A final thought. Ramaphosa, the nation, also said at the beginning of his term, we are going to build a society defined by decency and integrity. How disappointed are you that respected researchers on corruption, such as Kaimalan Govender at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, have concluded after 8 months that they see nothing new. The cancer of corruption, he says, is in fact more insidious, and it remains a normal way of life for South Africa.
Well, I don't know about South Africa, because we had the Steinhoff scandal, which they've had to come to a commission to account. That's a private company. We've had the issue of the banks. We've got a commission right now looking at state capture, and that has become a basis for actually going the judicial route. I think what the president has done is that there must never be an opportunity for anybody to say, I'm being targeted politically. This has to be a proper judicial, not a populist issue, so that everybody's rights are respected.
Thembisile Majola, we have to end there. But I do thank you very much for being on Mod Talk.
Thank you very much.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the U.S. is made possible by American Public Media, with support from Fidelity Investments, taking a personalized approach to helping clients grow, preserve, and manage their wealth. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, and by C3, addressing the world's most challenging problems, the convergence of artificial intelligence, IoT, and the lack of cloud computing. Learn more at c3.ai.
Midterm elections are coming up. Every vote matters, and every day matters too. It can be hard to stay on top of it all. Things change fast. But when news breaks, All Things Considered is on it. And then we help you understand what it means for the nation and for you. Listen to All Things Considered every afternoon and hear the bigger picture from NPR News.
Tune in weekdays at 4 and weekends at 5 on Vermont Public Radio.
I'm Gareth Mitchell with Technology this half hour here on the BBC World Service. Today, the demise of virtual reality. Yes, we've reached peak VR. Well, no, we haven't. Well, 3 years ago, virtual reality hit the ground on Newcastle. 2 recent op-eds in the tech press say it just isn't matching the hype. So we'll be asking one of VR's sunniest champions whether she is now beginning.
I've never lost a mark.
All that
I'm not going to stop
coming up
now.
after this bulletin of BBC World News.
BBC News with Justine Green. Doctors in Switzerland have developed a new technique that has allowed paralysed people to walk again after some of their damaged nerve tissue began to repair. The team said an electrical device placed around the spines of 3 men enabled their brains to send signals to their legs. The patients were able to walk about 1 kilometre with the implants switched on.
Что там воронка?
Jamal Khashoggi was strangled as soon as he entered the Saudi consulate in Istanbul nearly a month ago. British prosecutors said the murder was premeditated and that Mr. Khashoggi's body was dismembered shortly after he was killed. In a televised address to the nation, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, has appealed for calm and condemned hardliners against the Supreme Court judges. Earlier, the court acquitted a Christian woman, Asia Bibi, of blasphemy, overturning her death sentence. President Salva Kiir has apologized to the people of South Sudan for the civil war, which he described as a naked power struggle and a complete betrayal of the population. He was speaking in front of thousands of people at a peace ceremony. The rebel leader Riek Machar returned from exile for the event. Turkish forces have been shelling the Kurdish-controlled region just across the border in northern Syria.
Ребят, вы что гоните?
Hit a military vehicle.
Какой фидис?
Я на всех обидел. Я фидис пошел.
Linked to Kurds who fight in Turkish territory.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Scientists in the US
каждую катку так?
to suggest that the debilitating
Да, я так каждую катку играю.
may be linked to the digestive system. In a vast study,
Да, это печально.
people who had had their appendix were 20% less likely to develop the disease.
Да так, микрофон нет, это капец.
Ну, значит, отключи меня. Слушай меня. Не надо меня слушать. Зачем меня слушать? Я бесполезен.
Что ты вообще, короче?
Дождик по жизни. Ты понимаешь,
все будет хорошо.
And the world survived the Y2K bug, but how will Japan deal with next year's Emperor bug? Lots to talk about. Bill Thompson's here, everybody. Hello, Bill.
Sorry, я не видел.
Always reassuring, which brings us into our first item, the rise of VR. Well, it's kind of virtual. We were promised better worlds and all we got was this lousy headset. So opines the journalist Joshua Kapolsky, tech news site The Outline. Another recent piece in Gizmodo takes a critical look at Magic Leap and mixed reality. So a bit of a backlash maybe against VR. Well, not if you ask Catherine Allen, who's founder of Limina Immersive. That's just what we did actually. Catherine is with Limina Immersive. She's the founder. It's a VR platform for cultural venues. And she certainly remains upbeat. But I wonder what makes her so upbeat when perhaps there is a bit of a kind of zeitgeist of a VR backlash. Well, this is what she had to say just now.
Articles like this one, they're just looking at a small part of the picture. When you zoom out, you can see there's lots of activity going on in industry and also out-of-home entertainment. So, although at first people maybe assume that virtual reality is going to be, a headset at home, overnight, potentially, all of a sudden everyone's going to have a headset and they'll be doing maybe games or entertainment on it. That was an assumption. And if you take a step back, there are actually many more use cases for virtual reality. It's so new and actually quite strange, a whole new communications medium. It's got to find its time and its space in society, and maybe it's not what we expected.
Maybe as a consumer technology, maybe we can now rule it out effectively with games. I mean, like, Microsoft are going nowhere near it with the Xbox, are they? So is it just we have to accept it's not happening in gaming and we look at other areas?
No, not at all, and I think there's still loads of opportunity as something for home entertainment and as gaming, but it is a fundamentally really different medium where you surrender your senses of sight and your sense of sound and go into a different space. So because it's so essentially weird, it's taking us a while, and that's fine, to work out what is this new art form? How do we communicate with it? What is it that works for audiences? And yes, there were some predictions, mainly from outside the industry actually, that it was going to be of a certain scale very quickly, but actually we've got a big task to do. So it's not even the case that we should rule it out into the home.
Is it then a matter of just saying, okay, let's look at where it is relevant then? So it should just be about creating an experience that you couldn't have in any other way. It's not like just being at a gig in a virtual kind of reality headset.
Yeah. I mean, I find those experiences work really, really well. And as you say, out of the home. So I think it's surprised many analysts that VR as something called an in-location experience is really thriving. In fact, that's
your top tower is under attack.
We set up arts venues with everything they need to run their own what we call a VR theatre.
Собери рунки у них, пойди забери.
Sell tickets a bit like the original space in the theatre. Sell that very quickly. And it's not just us as well.
А ну вернись. Я опять
for example, and that HTC
я пошла на штайн,
art
потому
scheme
что
where they work with arts organisations to set them up with arts exhibits. They've had real successes with this in-location arts VR. So, for instance, Modigliani in the Tate, that did very, very well. Thousands of people through it.
Подожди, не пугай, не пугай. Давай медузу забираем.
I do wonder though if there is a business slightly site-specific VR, and you spend more time queuing to finally get onto the VR goggles and have the 5-minute experience than you do actually having the experience. And it just doesn't scale, does it? I'm just not sure where the business case is for it, apart from anything else.
Well, we don't really have to do it in a queuing way. I mean, that's one way you could schedule it. We found it's a lot better if you pre-book in advance. Maybe it's because people have assumed that you need to sort of set up a headset and then you have the audience come and do it kind of as an add-on to something else, kind of on demand. We found through Limina's done a couple of years of research into this now, and that just doesn't really work because, yeah, you get that crazy hype of queuing for something, thinking it's got to be amazing because it's got to have been worth these 2 hours that I've stood waiting, and it sets it up in all the wrong way. The best way to frame VR, we find, is with a really calm in-point and output.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Come back. So business-wise, yes, there's an in-location activity. We've got to find the right space for it and the right way to scale it. But
your middle tower is under attack.
That's Catherine Allen by Bill Thompson putting up with my curmudgeonly "it's all over" questions.
And she was very patient.
Slice is nuts.
It is still very and I think it's very interesting because not only talking to but also the technology itself is evolving.
No mana.
We've got the Magic Leap there. Microsoft's HoloLens is still a major player. But
you can't fight what you can't see.
So it's definitely far too soon to rule it out, even as a mass media experience. But it does have niches which are actually currently important. Again, we heard them in terms of artistic presentation. If you're an artist working with moving image, film with moving image, then the potential to present something in VR or augmented reality is enormous, similar to presenting in a gallery, and the same sorts of numbers. So it's not like you diminish it with image. And
dire structures are fortified.
Medicine and engineering and things like that. Being able to overlay on the real world is important, but also on the side, I would not dismiss it.
Not enough mana.
So give them some time to find the place.
Well now, in an instance like a terrorist attack, getting an accurate picture of what's actually going on by following social media postings can be bewildering for the best of us. And in many ways, the emergency responders, well, they can feel similarly confused and overwhelmed to allocate resources. But a team of counter-terrorism experts has just published new guidance based on a series of case studies of serious incidents around the world. The report is called From Minute to Month, and one of the authors is Martin Inners, Director of the Crime and Security Research Institute at Cardiff University in Wales.
What we were trying to do is try and take a really comprehensive look, both over time and across countries, in terms of how does media and social media impact public reactions.
You can't fight what you can't
the reason
see.
for doing that really is to try and pull out some similarities. Because there was sometimes a tendency to just think this is a new...
Ой, тут пак подошел. Я ушла, мне нет.
To see my enemies
Your middle tower is under attack.
So, for instance, in the case of obviously got people in the venue that night who
Your
are
top
sending
tower
out
is under attack.
social media posting, people in the area. What does that siege in particular, what did you learn from looking at that case study?
One of the really interesting things about the Butterfly case study, but we've seen similar patterns in others as well, is you do have individuals in the scene tweeting out to their followers that they are in there and that
the enemy's middle tower has fallen.
That's quite important because From a policing point of view, what the police are never quite sure is this a genuine message, or is this someone, one of the terrorists inside the venue, who has got hold of someone's phone, someone's Twitter account, and is deliberately trying to lure them in for a confrontation. So again, very dynamic situations that increase the pressure on police decision makers, and they've got to kind of decide what are they going to do with all of the swirl of information that is coming out in these kind of scenes. And the Bataclan case was a particular example of that.
And in other cases, we see examples of where people are really yearning for real-time information, both in the community and the emergency responders. For instance, the Boston Marathon in 2013, that's an interesting case of messages that were being put out by terrorists, but also by those who are caught up in the terrorist activity.
What you see is to play now, and there's a lot of public and political interest at the current time around misinformation and disinformation. And one of the things we were trying to do is try to say, well, actually, in the minutes after a terror attack and in the hours and sometimes the days, it's really hard to know precisely what is going on, because yes, you do have genuine contributors to social media who are trying to promote public understanding of what's happened, but you've also got people who are trying to mislead and disinform.
So what are you telling, first responders, emergency services, and indeed media organisations?
Well, I think one of the things that strikes me about having looked across a large number of terror events is there is enormous pressure in these situations to get information out there, to kind of be the person to break the story, to kind of get that kind of scoop. But actually, if and when people get it wrong, and this does happen quite regularly, people get it wrong,
the
that
enemy's
has quite
top
longer
tower
term detrimental effects in terms of trust in institutions and trust in democracy and those kind of things. And these things can be exploited. So we're kind of saying to going out to and there are things that you can do to try and manage the risk. So for example, rather than just reacting to an event, have a plan, have it worked out. Who are you going to talk to? Who's going to talk to things? When can you say things?
I suppose a big part of it is just trying to avoid the information malicious messages as well, designed to cause disruption.
That's, I think, one of the key findings really, is by looking back over an extended period of time, we're able to track how government responses have changed and altered and adapted to the new information environment. And one of the things that's quite clear is if they say nothing, if they do leave that vacuum, then other people will come in and make mischief. So it's really important for police and government and politicians to be able and clear to say, in these kind of moments of emergency and crisis, when people are very influenceable, this is what we can tell you, so that you don't leave a gap that others can come in and fill with misinformation and disinformation.
And Bill Thompson, you've read that report. What did you make of it?
I think it's really important work. Firstly, because it's well researched and well argued, and it is it's one of the things. This is just sensible. It is clear that this will help, because all organisations that are responsible in some way for the information flow around these terrible events to think
dire structures are fortified
and have a strategy in place which is being followed. So there's a much less likely that they will just do something with less and get over it. Far more likely. And I think it offers also for all of us, journalists, who are facing this information, but also
To era na quadratura. To era
Brought to justice.
That's a bit of all. And what the report does, it just gives a really good framework.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. He is Bill Thompson, I'm Gareth Mitchell. And now, how to make physio fun with the aid of some smartphones, video games, and a balance board, wobble board if you prefer. No worries if you don't know what one is. Reporter Simon Morton describes them in this report from
I come to collect.
If you've been unlucky and picked up an injury whilst playing sport or exercising, then you may have ended up seeing a physiotherapist like Catherine Miller.
We always give our patients exercises to do as part of their rehab, and they need to go home and independently engage with those, and that would be our biggest challenge, is that patients will come back and they'll either admit they haven't done the exercises, or they will give excuses why they haven't done them, or they'll say they have done them when they haven't done them.
And it's pretty easy to tell that they lie that they've done the exercises, because you get them to perform it and they've got no idea what they're doing.
Physiotherapist Tim Dahlman has been trialling video games as a way to encourage his patients to do their exercises at home and speed up their recovery.
Unseen.
So yours works by having an app on your smartphone which measures the movements you make on a balance board.
Benjamin Dunn is part of the team that came up with the idea of turning a balance board into a smartphone for a video game.
Balance board.
Да ладно. Не будем больше на меня брать.
So the accelerometer will gyroscope from
and then you can die.
On balance board, and thereby your center of balance. We will tell them measures the
Убирайте
balance board and transfer games, which turns those movements into something that is fun and bright and exciting. This is just the calibration set to see if it's running. So we're going to do.
So once we've calibrated the balance board, it was time to play a game.
You're going to tilt the board in the direction.
Okay, so I'm stood on the balance board, or should I say wobbling around on it, and the aim of the game is to guide a ball through a landscape that's full of obstacles and lots of features and get to the finish line, which means I've completed a level.
Well, what we're doing is gamifying balance training. And balance training is something that's been around for
your middle tower
and
is
so we're
under
not adding
attack.
a new form of training to physiotherapy. What we're doing is we're bringing that
The enemy's bottom tower
giving it
has
some
fallen.
color and light in software and using games. So balance training, something that's really engaging and people actually do. While you're playing these games, your position on the balance board is being measured, so you can create these little activities which show a heat map of where you were most active, where you were least active.
Oh, nearly. This is more complex.
It is a real challenge in the gamification project because we're trying to give games to people who may not traditionally play games. There's a different level of understanding about certain game development.
Dire structures are fortified.
There are various things that, gamers will understand intuitively. Most people who are not gamers will not. And so that's a real interesting design challenge. And what we've done is bring a visual flair to what is essentially quite simple game, so that people can pick up something, learn it very quickly, but that it has enough depth that you can play it in, the 3-5 months of your recovery. The balance tests are designed so that the physiotherapist can measure specific strengths and
the enemy's middle tower has fallen.
Your balance as you're training. So when you first come in, they can get a baseline. You do a balance test or a dynamic balance test that you're working on, and then they can measure the progress.
The trail is clearing.
And quite easily, they can show you how much you're progressing and what areas you still have to work on.
So you could literally strap a phone to any balance board.
Yeah, you definitely could. So you can vary the difference.
But it will cost you. The app isn't free.
Как не выглядел, да ладно.
Gizmos, gadgets. Still got to do your exercises.
Yeah, a lot of people think that there's a magic bullet and they can just buy the silver bullet if you like and get better, but I'm the first one to tell them that
you can't fight what you can't see.
Back to basics for a lot of the principles.
From a physiotherapy point of view, there are so many other tools that we have that we like to employ for getting people active.
That report from Simon Mawson is very active on the sound effects. Yeah, there you go. So what about this idea of making the wobble board even more fun?
even more fun.
Even more fun.
Okay, there's an assumption. Watch me! And making the whole thing bearable by
now our sports correspondent.
No, I mean, I have never had an injury that requires me to do physiotherapy, but my wife has, and she found it very dull. And I think that's the distraction. I don't want to say, it's all about gamification, because it's not quite about that. It is just about making it less boring so people would like to do that, and then tracking it as you go. And the tracking is the key, then you can't.
Good advice. Well, finally, could Japan be facing the equivalent of the Millennium Bug, the clear crisis and confusion because the machines would flip out going from year 99 to 00. That was then.
The enemy's
but now
bottom
the Japanese
tower has
calendar
fallen.
is based on eras that begin with each emperor. The existing era will end when Emperor Akihito abdicates, as is expected to this year. So there are worries that the change could affect systems based on the Japanese calendar. And it's no use saying, well, what did they do last time? I'm sure it worked out then, because the present emperor has been in place since 1989. So this change from one to the next simply hasn't happened in the information age as we know it now. Ansgar Koch has been looking into this. He's at the School of Computer Science at the University of Nottingham in England. So how similar is this situation to that?
So the underlying systematic is going on the same as the world. It's more the user-facing side that uses a calendar system that involves the name of the era. So really the issue that we're talking about is not at all like the Millennium Bug, where the software was designed with a certain size of memory to hold
the enemy's bottom tower has fallen.
Coming to the change of hitting the maximum it's going to basically do a reset.
That was the issue with the Millennium Bug, so I suppose it was easy to understand the concern.
The enemy's bottom new victims in mind. The enemy's bottom
the bedrock of computing is most of the rest of the world is based on the standard, so global calendar that computers use. So you're saying it's more like the calendars that Japanese users would see won't necessarily be able to talk to those operating systems anymore. It's still very serious, but it's not like the bedrock of computing itself has the same worry attached to it as might have been the case with the Millennium Bug.
Indeed. The computers are going to keep running. If the computer hasn't received an update that will be able to incorporate the new date, it will simply continue on as if the previous emperor had stayed and we used this year.
Nothing like the feel of a fresh malt
of your operating system. You now type in the name of the new era, it won't recognize this as a proper entry to this field because the system hasn't been told that this is valid.
The enemy's middle tower
so it
has
will
fallen.
cause confusion. You will get attacks
the enemy's bottom shrine has fallen.
We want to be proper, we're going to put in the date, and then the automatic processing it. If it hasn't been updated, it won't be able to process it correctly, so you get lots of error messages. Which may require manual correction unless
dire structures are fortified.
You get people being annoyed that the calendar date that shows up on their operating system will still have trains won't suddenly run through red lights or grind to a halt. They will simply continue as if the center has stayed.
Is this like a case that this present era in Japan is the only era that most modern computers have ever known?
Yes, it's the first time that there's been a change in emperor while computing systems have been quite unique. And it's a very unique problem as far as computer design is concerned, because it's the first time that any global date system has changed in this kind of way where you can't pre-predict when you need to insert the new way of doing a date and you don't know what to call the new date.
But presumably the government and this committee, they must recognise the problem. Can't they just get on with it and come up with a name ready? It's not the right thing to do in Japan.
this is actually
Опачки. Извини, пожалуйста, извини. Извини.
The government actually does know what's happening here, but they aren't going to properly tell anybody before these exciting
Enemy's top shrine has fallen. Your shrine has fallen to the raiders.
With Japanese tradition.
Yes, so the engineers are basically frustrated because they want more time to be able to send out the updates to the software and make sure that it doesn't get reduced. Bugs that have appeared, some other flaws within the operating system where the date gets sent through.
So what, I mean, if anything is being done, or even can be done,
so in essence, what is being done, for instance, Microsoft said what they're doing is they're preparing an update and they made the new field.
The enemy's
they just
top tower has fallen.
Put in the name. So building the update that they have to send out already, and they can do some internal testing with that, sort of with a dummy name, and then as soon as the name gets announced, they just have to fill in the name, and then they can send it out. At which point we will still be faced with the typical issue with updates that not everybody actually applies the update.
So the idea there is
the enemy's top tower has fallen. The enemy's top barracks has fallen. The enemy's middle barracks has fallen. The enemy's middle barracks has fallen. The enemy's top barracks has fallen. We now have
Желающих нету?
The enemy's middle tower has fallen. The enemy's middle tower has fallen. Radiant victory.
Everything went well. So, I mean, in other words, is there a message here that it worked out well last time?